Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We just wanted to take this time to give you an introduction into pivot tables. We can summarize and analyze our data using different tools. For example, we have a pivot table option here that I can create very easy pivot tables within the Informer application. I don't need to export it to Excel first. I can do that within Informer. I can break out the values I want, how I want everything aggregated on the rows and in the columns, and then what values within the data set I want to view. For example, I might want to break out my data here and have gender in the row values, and then for my columns I might want ethnicity. So now I've broken out a count of the number of applications I've received within each of these sections, and I can drill into this data. If I wanted to look at just the female African American applications, I can click on that and I get a nice little drill in here of that data, and then I'm able to download that list to whatever format I need. You can change the values instead of count. You can choose other values that you want to maybe aggregate. So for an example, we might total the meal plan amount here. So this breaks out the total amount for meal plans by gender, by ethnicity. So again, very easy and very simple process to create a pivot table. And I can clear that and click the start over, and that will go back to the beginning and let me create a new pivot table. If I choose a date value for either my rows or columns, then I'm able to select how I want to represent that data, what period of time I want the values aggregated to. So I might want to do, say, look at the application date and break that out by year. So now I've got a nice little breakout here by year in my rows. And then maybe for my columns, I can do the same thing and choose the apply date. But this time I'm going to choose month of year. So now I get a nice little breakout by month and by year of the applications. And again, I can choose to have a different aggregate value instead of just count within the pivot table. One of the things you can also do here is within these visuals that you'll see later on, they all have settings to them. So we can go in for this pivot table, for example, into the settings and adjust the limit on how many columns we want to show, how many rows we want to show. We can export to CSV, and we can also save this pivot table as well. If we want to view that visual later, I can save it and access that later. I also want to show one other thing here. Let me go back to my original one that I had selected, ethnicity. You can also sort, if you're choosing something besides dates, you can sort these columns by either their count, descending, ascending, or by the header value itself, ascending or descending. So if I choose that, then they're going to be in alphabetical order, or I can order them by their value. So I'll have the highest value in the upper left going to the lowest value in the lower right. So that's pretty much the overview of Informer 5 pivot tables. If you have any questions, feel free to send an email into informersales@intrinsic.com. We're always happy to answer any questions that you may have.